We talked a lot about the entire ending of Splatoon 3 and talked about how the implications of Mr. Grizz could set up future installments, and we even talked about Little Judd being the next version of the big bad that we normally get, as he's probably the one running Grizzco right now. There's some theories and stuff talking about that, and I actually made a video a couple days about it, so feel free to check that out if you haven't seen it yet. Well, after the big explosion in space, a lot of us just put it off and thought Mr. Grizz was done for, but actually new theories arise that he's still alive. In fact, it's not even a theory, it's pretty much confirmed. If you watch the end credits scene, you'll notice Mr. Grizz on several different scenes will float around the earth in a little ball. So somehow, through that giant explosion, he's still alive, and he still has some of his fuzzy goo all over him. His hands, his back, and even like in his mouth. I don't even know, is he eating it? Mr. Grizz is alive, and he's floating around the earth, and the scary part is, it looks like he's pretty big in comparison to the earth. Like, he's pretty much the size of a continent floating around that thing. Hopefully he's not a humongous threat later on, which I think he actually might be. But let's talk about how he could actually return. Remember, Mr. Grizz spent a majority of his life in space, and in fact, he was not alone. He was with other astronauts in the rocket, and he was also with fellow bears as well, because Mr. Grizz is bear number 3, which means there were at least 2 other bears in front of him. But as the shuttle drifted for 10,000 years without any fuel, most of the inhabitants were probably in cryo, because we know Mr. Grizz was in hibernation as well. So I would assume the other 2 bears were also in hibernation. Now, this is where it gets kind of interesting. We know the shuttle actually landed back on the Earth and killed everybody on board except for Mr. Grizz, which is very odd. To me, I just don't believe that story. It seems like Mr. Grizz is avoiding every single explosion, and maybe something is allowing this to happen. Maybe something aboard that space shuttle actually infected Mr. Grizz or the other bears and gave them some type of abilities to withstand mass explosions and kind of made them stronger, which makes me also think maybe Mr. Grizz wasn't the sole survivor, but instead when he came out, he was looking for the others and he couldn't find them. Maybe the other 2 bears are also still alive somewhere on Earth and they're rampaging around trying to find each other, and they just haven't found each other yet. Thanks to the fuzzy ooze, right now we know Mr. Grizz is gigantic floating around in space, and being that big actually is going to have a giant perk. He's actually able to cause destruction now, and maybe thanks to the Inklings and Octolings' attempt to destroy him, he now is fueled with rage, and he wants to come back, and now he can pretty much level an entire city with his pinky with how big he is. Imagine if he was able to find the other 2 bears and also bring them to the same size as him. I mean, literally, they would be like 3 giant bear gods controlling the world themselves. I mean, it would be kind of crazy. I have another theory talking about that crashed shuttle and the other people that were on that shuttle and bears as well with another video. I think it's just too much to talk about with that separately, but I want to stick with Mr. Grizz here. So what are the odds of Mr. Grizz actually returning in a future story? Well, I would actually say pretty high, and in fact we know that this Splatoon game seems to be the end of a trio of games, apparently thanks to Nintendo through a treehouse. Obviously I don't think that means Splatoon is done after this game. I think it's just an end to this story arc with DJ Octavio, with everything that's been going on with the bears and stuff, but maybe this next trio of games, the story is focused around the bears. Maybe the bear is the big bad, is the new DJ Octavio, and then the end of that series will introduce a new enemy. I mean, if Mr. Grizz becomes the new big bad of Splatoon, I think it would be, you know, pretty cool. I think it makes a lot of sense as well. He's not a sea creature, he's a mammal, and it kind of just like the mammals versus the sea creatures and stuff would be really, really cool. And just having another sea creature be a villain just doesn't really quite feel as passionate and as strong as this one. It's like 2 competing forces of the animal kingdom with land versus sea, and I really like that concept. Well, maybe Mr. Grizz actually gets some more people on his team and creates his own version of the Beast Pack. Yeah, from Kirby and the Forgotten Land. All those animals were the big bads. I would love to see something like that again, and maybe there's like a lion out there somewhere that's the king and he wants to take over the land once again. Because I think Mr. Grizz is a big key to the story here, because if he survived that wreckage, literally any other animal or creature on Earth could have survived somehow. There could have been a bunker where humans are still alive somewhere, or maybe just a zoo area where a lot of animals escaped and found refuge somewhere, the same way the animals did within that giant volcano crater of Alterna. So maybe there's a way that there's some other animals or life out there. One way or another, I think we need to see Mr. Grizz again, and I think we will. Whether he's going to be a bad guy or even a good guy. Maybe he comes down and owns a shop in Splatoon 4. Maybe he's going to sell us some shoes this time around, or I don't know. But I think it could be very interesting to see him again, and we know he's alive, so they got to do something with him. He can't just float around the earth forever, right? But now I leave it up to you guys. What do you think is going on with Mr. Grizz? Is he still going to come back? Is he just going to float around here forever? And what would you like to see him do if he did return? Let me know in the comments down below, and thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to stay up to date on all things Splatoon 3 theories and Nintendo in general. And I'll see you all on the next one. See you guys.